All right, welcome to the official Milo development blog. This week has been pretty interesting as usual, and I spent a lot of time in the code cleaning stuff up and optimizing different things, and also cleaning up my project files and and coding and learning more about coding. That's uh, my my biggest weakness, weirdly, um, is actually in that area, and so I spend a lot of time trying to learn as much as I can about that each week, and sometimes I don't get around to doing as much of the cosmetic stuff as I'd like, but I always make time for it because I'm trying to leverage my strengths as much as I can in this game. And I'm happy with the progress that I've made overall. I added this character you see now. He's got a very silly walk. Is who I call Crum. I don't know much about Crum. I just know that he is a distinct character from the other character that you saw last week, and he will likely be more of a support or a demo man type of class, or a healer. But he'll definitely be different, and hopefully different in a meaningful way, and attract kind of a different type of player than the sort of primary soldier class that I have. At least, that's what he is right now. Um, and I was able to fix the skeletal mesh pipeline that I've been struggling with, which is a huge victory. It means that there's going to be a lot more freedom for me going forward in terms of making changes to things, or um, well, I guess mostly it's making changes, and also it I can spend more time on designing stuff and not kind of wondering if this is going to break because of this. I feel like I have a much better understanding of what's happening and what's expected when bringing uh, some things from other 3D softwares like Maya into Unreal, and so I'm very oh there I go. So I'm very happy about that, and I'll just boot it up with my player pawn. Something that I've been looking at more is just the inspiration for the environment for the game, or in the setting, which really comes from this idea I've been playing with in my head about a dystopian type of Chuck E. Cheese, some sort of dark, uh, you know, just I mean, I guess there's no other way to put it. I mean, it's really a dystopian type of Chuck E. Cheese environment, and I want to explore kind of the humor and the horror of Chuck E. Cheese. I mean, just I think a lot of people are terrified. I mean, look at this picture here. 1979, 1989. I mean, all of these are kind of scary in their own way, but I think everyone would agree that these older Chuck E. Cheese, depictions are, just downright disturbing. And I like disturbing stuff like that. I think that I think one thing that I really like about this idea of playing with a dystopian type Chuck E. Cheese is that I like things that are disturbing to some people and not to others. Because like I've always felt very disturbed by things that people tend to really love, uh, or at least I've always felt like I've been uncomfortable in situations and with certain things where other people have been, uh, it's just normal to them. So I think that that's probably what draws me to it. And I guess I should just give an example. Like, I don't know. I remember in high school, people standing around in a circle. I'm sure this, other people remember stuff like this. Like when people were sort of meeting each other in high school and or just hanging out, like they would be in a circle and like talking to each other, and everyone would kind of, you know, take turns, or like it seemed like they were taking turns. And there's sort of this dance happening, and I always thought that it was a nightmare. Um, the few times that I did it, I felt like I am terrified. I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea how people know what to do, and I just wanted to crawl out of my skin. So that's a big motivator for this sort of theme. But yeah, I so the skeletal mesh pipeline, that's a huge deal. Thinking more about the theme of the game and how I can sort of integrate the stuff that I'm interested in, which a lot of times is just seemingly totally random. I've got the new character Crum. Um, I don't know what that's about, but we'll find out. You know, and I'm actually really excited about making this game because it would be so much different if it was like writing a story or making a movie or something like that, because I feel like games have this, in a way, they kind of have a special license to be kind of really ridiculous and nonsensical and surreal. Because if the gameplay is good, then you don't really have to have a lot of coherent things in terms of the backstory and the lore and all that. So yeah. Um, Another thing that I sort of am learning more about and I'd like to use more is these decals to sort of break up the environment. I have created, like for instance, in these checkered floors, there is a variation. There's actually four variations, and for example, one of them has a little dip, or this one actually has two little dips in the tile. It's a little hard to see. Maybe if I make it lit. Here we go. Where a tile would be missing or broken. And then I have one that's got a spare tile, and this is really just to break up the fact that this is that this is one texture. All these static meshes share, and the same goes for the wall. This is one texture and this is one, and this can be repeated on in any direction, and it looks pretty good. But things like having these decals and implementing more of these, I think, will really give the world more of a sense of life, and just sort of break up the patterns. Uh, of course, if you watch my last blog, I did spend a lot of time on this sort of vignette. Um, for that reason, is so that there is a enough variety that it can populate the world and not seem like, oh geez, this is like really obvious. Um, but yeah, I think that I don't have too much else to say This week, I'd like to get going on things like zombie damage. I'd like them to be able to apply damage to me, possibly even some sort of structure or wall or window. And if at all possible, maybe make them able to drop an item. I like these zombies to drop currency when they die, because I want to introduce a form of like kind of not like I guess like a mystery box type of mechanic, but I don't want it to be too on the nose. I'd like to find different ways that I can let players sort of manage risk reward. Maybe they can gamble some of their currency, for a chance to get a really cool item or whatever, but run the risk of empowering the zombies while they're at it, or giving themselves a debuff, or so I want to have actually kind of a variety of ways that people can use currency that can reward and punish the player. And I think that just has a lot to do with my love of survival horror, and especially early Resident Evil games, and just the kind of positions that those games like to put you in, where you really have to decide, do I want to keep this herb, or do I want to, store it so I have one, before the boss fight, or, am I going to keep this key that, that looks like it probably is not worth keeping, so I can pick up another health pack or something, things like that. I'd like to play around with, but I do feel like right now I'm kind of in the mode of making sure that everything is just working really fluidly at this stage, because the more I build on the game, the more complex it gets. And if the things that I'm looking at now don't make sense to me now, and aren't manageable by me, then that's a huge problem. So I'm going to be spending quite a bit of time just sort of verifying everything that I have, and making sure that the things that I need to scale, that I know for certain will have to scale into throughout the game, and into other mechanics like health. Those are things that are going to have to be adjusted, on a per wave basis. Health will be different for zombies, and it will be different for players too, because of things like power-ups. So all these things can't be left to like, oh, well, I'll sort of do that in a later, or I'll sort of do it down the line. It's like, no, it really has to make sense now, and it has to be scalable. So doing my best to stay ahead of the game, stay ahead of my own lack of experience in game development. And I think that I hope that it pays off, at least to some extent, because I know that I'm going to have to go back, and I'm going to have to redo some things. There's only so much that I can do. But I've got a lot of great resources, and I've got some cool people that I've met that are resources as well, in terms of the computer science side of this. And I'm excited to see what happens next. But yeah, with that said, thanks for watching, and I hope I get to show you something cool next week. Bye bye. Love you.